Hello.
Hello. Hey, how you doing?
Hi.
Hey, how's it going?
Going
Good. How
well.
are you?
I'm
Thank
doing great. Thank you to both of you for taking the time to do this interview.
Absolutely. We're thrilled to be here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm very excited for this. I'm so thankful for the opportunity to be able to check out what you guys are doing, and of course, we're going to be getting into it. But I just want to say that first of all, to Steve, thank you so much for reaching out about this. I love discovering new music, and I love what I've heard from Negative Bliss so far.
Thank you. It was exciting for me to discover you. I've always really liked high quality reviews and interviews. And like I said, I actually came across your YouTube page through Greg from Witnesses, and I just loved your interview with him. So, thanks for having us.
Oh, absolutely. And thank you, Paul, for being a part of this as well. And yeah, it's going to be great to be able to talk about everything that's going on, including in just a few short weeks now, a brand new EP from you guys. I've been thankful to have been able to check this out thanks to a promo code from Bandcamp. I've been listening to this pretty much every day since Saturday. I was finally able to sit down and listen to this, and I've been listening to it ever since. And I just love what you guys are doing. I love this so much. I love the blend of doom, like the black gaze, some progressive metal stuff I hear in here as well, like it, and all layered in such great melodic moments as well too. No matter what the genre bending is going on, like the fact that you guys are able to pull all of this off in such a short relative time, all things considered, is absolutely mind blowing to me, and it's just incredible to be able to hear this.
It's
thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead,
Yeah,
Steve.
seriously. It's really cool for you to say relatively short amount of time because we started in January 2023, um, because our drummer John, we didn't know each other prior to that. We're all parents. Paul's actually a brand new parent as of a couple months ago, and we've all been relatively active musicians for most of our lives, but because of taking on the role of having kids, we all kind of drifted away from it. So John Meyer, our drummer, had actually put out like a totally blanket call out on Facebook saying like looking to get back into music. I'm into heavy music. Here's what I like. If there's any other people out there who want to try to do this again, who are in a similar situation of being parents who haven't played music in a long time, reach out to me. And we each individually did, and just by chance we got along really well, and just started meeting like once a week. We started off just playing covers just to see if we would get along, and it's the momentum's just been great. And now
Yeah, it
we're
was
all
fun. We started doing a couple covers by like Dillinger Escape Plan and He Is Legend and what was the other one?
El Spirit Noir.
Hail Spirit Noir. Yeah, yeah.
That is quite the collection.
Yeah, and Zayo.
Yeah, yeah, the Zayo cover. We still play that one once in a while at rehearsals.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, it was just kind of a mishmash of different covers just to like see if we could play our instruments again after like I mean Steve had been playing I think, but the rest of us hadn't played probably in like a decade or something. So it's just fun to kind of get started again. That was like a year and a half ago. So yeah, it's kind of nice to have a release coming out finally.
Yeah, seriously. And it's funny because we're parents and we all work full time. Sometimes it feels like we work really slow. Like we'll meet like once a week and be home recording demos and sharing ideas, and we have our little group chat that we're always talking to each other in. But yeah, it feels good to hear you say that it feels like a short amount of time, because sometimes it feels like I wish we could meet even more.
Oh, I completely understand that. But, again, like the fact that you're putting out such quality with just these four songs alone in less than 2 years. Like, there's well-established bands that don't even come close to being able to pull off what you guys are doing that have been around for like decades. I I just really love the chemistry that you guys have. So, like, obviously, like you mentioned, you started off doing covers, and what a great wide range of eclectic covers as well. Like when you first started trying to come up with ideas for original material, how did you know he was going in the right direction?
Hmm.
It
Interesting
was just like,
question.
did we like it? Does it sound good? Is it fun to play? I think that was kind of our criteria.
Yeah, I mean, we throw around this word cathartic a lot when we describe our music, but I think a big part of the use of that word is more for ourselves because we all kind of found where we were in our lives at the time when we started. We were kind of like worn out. Like parenting is exhausting, working full time is hard, and when you feel that like burn inside of you that you want to be connected to music but you're not doing it anymore, it starts to strain on you. And I think when we realized that we enjoyed playing together and that we liked kind of fusing all these different influences that we have, even though we all kind of listen to a lot of different stuff from one another, it started to feel cathartic for us. Like every week that we meet, it feels like this unbelievable like release that no matter what is going on in our personal lives during the week before, when we get together, it's heaven.
Yeah, just make some fucking noise.
Yeah, exactly.
So what I'm hearing is it's like for anyone who might not know, it's kind of like a combination of Black and Dad doomcore.
Yes, that's a good description.
Yeah, we've always like had a hard time coming up with a genre, and I think on our website for a while we had like some really goofy descriptors that might have even been pretty close to what you said, like post dad doom, deathcore, metal, black metal, something like that.
Yeah, I think you came up originally with like post metal doomcore, which I loved.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
and
mean,
that
it's an interesting mix because John Hernandez, our bassist, and the other lead vocalist is very into like very dramatic doom. And John Mayer, our drummer, has like a long history in like hardcore and melodic hardcore and post metal. Like his favorite band is Cult of Luna. My background is mostly in like avant-garde black metal, hence the Hail Spirit Noir. And Paul is like this interesting mix of melodic hardcore and like tech metal, but then he's also really into R&B.
yeah, all over the place. I love jazz, R&B, love yeah, tech metal, anything that's like crazy progressive stuff. But love
Right.
black metal, death metal, thrash, doom, rock. Love like the dance Gavin dance kind of like fun melodic hardcore stuff like that, and like trying to put in like that type of energy into like doomier stuff, which I feel like is kind of maybe an interesting mix.
Yeah, and I think that's what I appreciate about the music so much is there is such a variety of influences going on, but it doesn't just sound like a hodgepodge of different sounds. It's not like it sounds like you have to write a doom riff, then you have to write a tech riff, then you have to write a jazz riff or whatever. Like all of it makes sense together. Like these are well-structured songs, and it feels like every movement that happens throughout the songs are meant to be there, which is such a great thing to see, especially when you can have so many different influences and you want to be able to throw everything against the wall and see what works. I'm glad that, the songs come first and everything on here feels like it's going in the right direction.
Thank you. I think that's important to us. A lot of the time when we start a new song, because we have a number of other songs in the works, um, they'll often start with one person bringing like the foundation of the song into the room, and then having the other three people contribute to that. So like when we finished the EP, I actually went back and like listened to all of our pre-production demos, and it was just such a pleasure to hear like how much better the songs were once all four people got involved. Like, it's cool to hear like the foundation of what the song is. Like if you strip it back to just an acoustic guitar and a vocal, that the song structure works and the melody works. But hearing all the colors and motion and movement and lead parts and interesting drum arrangements that everyone adds to paint the full picture makes it all so much better.
Yeah, and again, that's just so cool to hear that from the listener experience. Also being a musician as myself, and just being able to hear how all of the arrangements are starting to go and everything. And that's got me very excited for the next release. Even though this release is still coming out in a few weeks, I'm excited to see what those new songs are going to be like. Is it going to be like funeral pop grind? Is it going to be like country core? I mean, there's so many different things that you could go about it, but at the same time, it's just like it really does feel like all of your hearts are in the right places. It feels like you want to be going towards the same goal and just writing what you do consider to be very cathartic music. Because when I listen to it myself, the more I'm able to dissect it, the more I hear that catharsis going in. Whether it's the lyrics that's going on, whether it's the arrangement of the riffs, where it feels like it's tugging on your heartstrings, especially on some of those riffs, like you can really hear that emotionally, or just the overall structure of the whole thing. Just like going between all four songs, and I appreciate none of the none of the four songs sound alike, but they all fit together. And that's such a hard thing to be able to do, and you guys pulled that off.
Thank you.
So
I
many
think
nice things that you're saying. Thank you so much.
I think the stuff we have coming up still fits in line with what's on Everything Hurts and I'm Dying. But it also does offer some new elements that haven't been heard yet. I
So
kind
funeral pop grind might happen.
Sure, yes. Paul constantly jokes about us starting a grind side project, and I actually before this, the thing that burned me out from music before I had kids actually was I used to write pop music, and it wasn't fun. It was work, and it made me not want to do anything with music anymore, which killed me. So it was Negative Bliss really saved me in a lot of ways in terms of reconnecting me with the positive reasons to work on music. um, yeah.
I completely understand that so much. Like, I've been in so many different types of bands that usually imploded before we ever got into the studio. But what made me feel more dead inside than anything was being in a bar cover band. Like,
Mm,
it was the most amount of money I was making, like, because bars pay pretty well for cover bands, but you just feel so dead inside if you're not enjoying the music that you're playing.
right.
And I can only imagine that when you're trying to write original music that you just don't have that passion for, I can imagine how that would kill you on the inside.
Yeah, big time.
So thinking about that, I mean, obviously, again, like as it's been mentioned before, it's just like the music, just like the coming together of all this is cathartic, and when you're writing the music, it also has that catharsism to it. But when it comes to a lyrical standpoint, did you know this was the direction that you wanted everything to go into, or did it just come naturally this way, or how did it come together?
It's funny. I think as the lyrics were coming together, there wasn't like a clear theme going in. I was just writing what came naturally. Um, and then after we picked these four songs and put the release together, we were like, okay, what is the direction of this release? And we realized that like all four songs are about coping with something. Um, for some reason, I guess because I've just felt like a strong connection with these guys. I mean, I feel like I found like three best friends as a result of this band forming. Um, I felt like this strong emotional urge to kind of get out like some baggage that was inside of me. The song Sunless Forever, in particular, which is the one song that isn't actually out in the public yet, um, is about of like some pretty serious personal stuff from when I was younger. Um, so yeah, it's been a big release. I mean, The Lighthouse is more of just fiction. It's just a story, but it's a sad story about a woman's husband being lost at sea and dying. So that one we kind of narrowed down into saying it was about coping with loss or grief rather. Sorry, Sunless Forever is about coping with loss. The Good Life was just about like times in my life where I felt like I had no idea what was going to be going on in my life, whether it was good or bad. So I was just kind of coping with chaos. And then Sunstain, John Hernandez wrote most of. I wrote some of the lyrics in that when we felt like we were kind of stuck, but the lyrics I contributed after I kind of like cornered him and was like, I need to get inside your head so I do your lyrics justice. Um, but it's really just about growing up in a belief system, like being forced into a belief system, and when I mean Paul could probably speak more to this.
Yeah, I think Jonathan Hernandez and I kind of both had religious upbringings that we kind of moved away from as adults, and I think kind of there's some like maybe freedom coming out of that, and at the same time it feels like a bit of a loss. Like I thought this was so important in my life, and maybe now it's not what it once was, and maybe that there's some loss and grief of losing that as well. So yeah, it's a bit with just kind of coping with that change in your life, I think.
And it can be a huge change, especially like you mentioned, if you grew up around that. I grew up in a very small town, and church was very, very important in my small town. Funny enough, my parents never went, but they did force me and my brother to go every single Sunday, which I do find to be very ironic. And due to some incidents that happened within the church, I stopped going. And then after I stopped going, everything did feel a lot more free. I was able to establish more of what I found to be morally right and wrong and be able to forge my own path with that. So I can completely understand that.
Sure.
Yep,
But yeah, again, just like thinking of all four songs on here and the way of coping and everything. And there is so many different ways that you might have to cope with something, and there's so many different reasons for it, different ways that you're able to do that. And just the thinking about this, like from a mental health aspect, as you're working on it, or being able to look back and listen to these songs, like how are both of you doing mentally when you're thinking about like, whether it's a fact or fiction, whatever the case is, like when you're thinking of these things, like how do you personally cope?
Paul, or do you want to?
Well, I feel like music has been a really useful coping mechanism for for each of us, being able to just you know spend a few hours a week just disconnecting from everything else in life and just kind of making some noise and banging your head and having a good time. I feel like that has been a coping mechanism for us. Yeah, what would you say, Steve?
Yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, this past year, or past 2 years rather, I've really poured myself into music more than I ever have before. Um, and it's helped so much. I feel like when you let the creative part of yourself out, it makes you so much more able to be a better version of yourself in all the other aspects of your life. Like, I feel like engaging more with music again has made me a better parent, a better husband, better at my job, just like more concerned with the world around me. Yeah,
Yeah, and I feel like too in some of these songs, like we're lyrically like kind of relating to experiences from our past, maybe from a long time ago that we've kind of already coped with and dealt with and kind of moved past. Um, so I don't know if that answers your question.
yeah,
No, it does. And again, it just shows like how important music really can be. I mean, whether you're musically inclined or not, either just listening to it or being able to discover new stuff, whether it's brand new or stuff that you've never heard before, or if you are musically inclined, being able to write a new riff or being able to try a new style, learn new technique on the guitar, whatever the case is. Like if you can keep yourself motivated and be creative in that sense, it's always a good thing.
absolutely. And like you say, like whether you're a listener or a creator, like I'm not a visual artist at all, like as far from it as you can imagine. But like when I see visual art I like, it still, fills me with passion and excitement. So I imagine like someone who doesn't play music, when they hear music they are excited about, it still lights their soul up.
So thinking about this from before the band came together, like when you were dealing with all of these coping things, like how were you able to do it? I mean, did you feel lost? Do you feel like you had to do some outside things like therapy or medication or anything to be able to get past these hardships in life? Did you just deal with it? Like how did you handle it?
I mean, the things that Sunless Forever are about. I did go to therapy when I was like a young adult, um, partly also just because I felt like so lost in my life at the time, which helped a lot. Um, and I've just yeah, I mean, there have been points, especially when my kids were younger, where parenting is just it can leave you feeling so drained and confused because you have to throw so much of yourself into it. Um, I mean, I've found solace in a lot of different places, but when therapy is the right thing to do, it works.
Yeah, and I was just so curious about that because I do have a sub series on my YouTube channel called Something Gives with Josh Runquist, where I do talk about like all of the mental health struggles that I've gone through my entire life, and that's always been something that's like been very near and dear to me because I've gone through so many different things that's really impacted my mental health, and I kind of use that to keep myself uh, ac- accountable to be able to look at the past, try to better myself in the future, like try to reevaluate everything that's going on in my life right now. And the original idea behind that series was I wanted to get people in every week to be able to like talk about how they handle their mental health, if they've had to deal with a lot of struggles in the past or present, maybe the uncertainty of the future, and just being able to see how they handle things. And I'm just glad to see that you are you have in the past, like trying to find the ways to be able to get better and, getting back into something that you do love and care about, like creating music. It really does show the power of like being able to get those emotions that you don't necessarily know what to do with if you don't have that creative outlet. And when you're able to create something that's like dark and cathartic and oddly optimistic as well, too, because I always feel like the darker the music is, the more optimistic it is because there's so many people that can relate to those things other than like pop music, where, it's just about like dancing all night or, taking drugs and alcohol and, just like having all these great times, which is not always the case. Sometimes it really can be some of the darkest things that someone goes through. And when you can relate to that, it makes you feel better.
Absolutely. I mean, I when I was mixing Sunless Forever, I was literally I started crying and started messaging the rest of the band being like, I'm crying about this song, it's bringing up so much stuff from my past. And ultimately it felt really good. It was just like this great release. um yeah, it, it means a lot.
Oh, definitely. So, kind of going back to it, but going a little bit deeper into it, like when you listen to the songs off of the EP right now, like, do they still give you the same kind of emotions? Are you able to deal with those emotions a little bit better? Are they still hitting you hard? Like, how is it for you?
um yeah, they still do. I mean, it kind of depends like where my headspace is at. Like sometimes, so Sunstain was the first song we wrote together, and I still remember this like overwhelming, giddy excitement when the magic started kind of sweeping through the rehearsal space, and I could feel like what we were doing, and like I'd get home from rehearsal and just be like glowing. Like I couldn't sleep. I'd be like messaging the guys all night while the three of them are sleeping, just like ranting and raving about how excited I was and how I loved what we were doing. And so like sometimes, even though that song is kind of sad and has kind of a bleak tone to it, when I listen to it, I get kind of swept up in the emotion of how happy I was when we made it.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
would say pretty similar for me too. I think like when I listen to our songs, I maybe don't like I didn't write the lyrics for those four songs, so I don't maybe connect with the lyrics as deeply as Steve and Jonathan might. Um, but like I feel like I really connect with like the feeling of playing those songs and the like Steve was describing, like the feelings of just being happy about how things are sounding and coming together. Uh, yeah, it's a lot of fun listening to them songs. Just like it feels like yeah, this is this thing that we do every week. Like I get to listen to it. I don't have to do the work of playing it. I can just passively listen to it as a listener, and that's a fun experience.
That is really cool, actually.
Oh, it really is. So, going into more of the production side, I mean, obviously, it's one thing to be able to like create the riffs, create the songs, the structure, everything that goes into it. But when you're doing something as dense as the music is here, like, how hard is it to be able to like mix and master and make sure that you're using all the right tones and all of that stuff? Like, what was it more work like creating the songs or doing the production side of it?
It depends on the song. There are definitely moments in certain songs where we got pretty stuck in the writing process. Like the whole ending of The Good Life, where there's this like really interesting, uplifting key change. It was all Paul's genius because I had brought that song in and it had a pretty straightforward like pop structure of like verse, chorus. And then I had this bridge that at the core of it was just these two chords back and forth. And I played it for them and I was like, this is so boring. Like there's these chord changes and they change the key in a nice way, but the actual arrangement is just boring. And I love the bridge of that song now. It's just like this beautiful, uplifting, emotional, post-rocky, kind of sounds like Alceste, swelling moment. And then when it ended, we would go back to the chorus, and the chorus is like dark and heavy and kind of sounds a little opethy. And we were in the room, and we were just like, this is wrong. Like we're getting out of this uplifting bridge, going back to this dark, heavy place isn't working anymore. And we were just like, can we figure out a way to make the chorus but change its tone into something that keeps the bridge's emotional vibe? And Paul came up with this incredible chord progression and riff, and it just changed the song. So in terms of the writing there, that was harder. Like the production on that song was actually a lot easier to tackle. But then like the production on The Lighthouse was like a real bear. That song has like 200 tracks on it. And the way the sound overall palette of the sound changes from part to part, like the first 90 seconds of the song, like tonally and atmospherically, are so different from like the heavier parts of the song. So when I was mixing that, I felt like I was mixing like these weird separate pieces and then figuring out how to make them flow together. And when we release, in terms of mastering, we released Sunstain and The Good Life as singles initially that I mastered. And after doing those, I was like, I shouldn't be mastering stuff. I was like, it's okay, but it could be better. So that's when we contacted Eric Peabody, who also mastered Joy by Witnesses, um, as per Greg's suggestion, actually. And Eric was just incredible. He's an amazing collaborator. He gave me so many incredible notes to improve the mixes. That's why on the EP, The Good Life and Sunstain have the little quote parentheses that say "Everything Hurts" remix and remaster, because the quality of the versions on the EP are just so much better than the original singles. Like the mixes are better, and the masters are like 100 times better thanks to Eric. Um, so the yeah, sorry, this is kind of long-winded, but the challenges between writing and mixing definitely vary from song to song.
Oh, I can imagine. And it also goes to show the power of the people around you. I mean, of course, it's so great when you're able to find a group of people that you're able to write music with, you're working towards the same goal. But if you can find those people who like care enough about your music to recommend someone who could help elevate someone in the production or label or touring or whatever the case is for whatever band or project that you're a part of, when you can find those right outside people who want to be able to elevate your sound, it just makes everything so much easier and so much better. That way you're not doing everything 100% DIY, even though that can be quite satisfying to know that you've done everything yourself. Sometimes getting an outside ear is so important.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. I mean, we tried to be as DIY as possible, both for budgetary reasons and also the joy of being able to steer the ship. And, just as much as I was doing the production stuff, Paul has led the way on all of our visual parts. And he used to be a graphic designer, and he's been invaluable in that department. Like
Yeah,
putting up the three of us just like bombarding him with messages about like what we like in art and what we don't like in art and change this and change that. Like,
Yeah, to be honest, it was super. It was the easiest, like the easiest graphic design experience I've had. I feel like because usually I was used to in past like corporate settings, I would meet with the client. You get like a project brief up front, and then you might have days or weeks or a while where you're working on it, and then it's like perfect, it's done. You give it to them, and they're like, "Oh, this sucks. Like, we hate this. Can you change this? Can you make a logo bigger or whatever?" But with these guys, it was just like I would send them screenshots, like while I'm working on something, just send a screenshot, get feedback, make changes, send a screenshot. Just kind of iterate quickly, and that was such an easier experience for me to kind of just get through it quickly.
If only everything could be that easy in life. But I will say with the EP, I do love the cover so much. I find it so striking, and I think it fits the overall tone of the EP and the band so very well.
thank you.
Awesome, thanks. Yeah,
I'm really glad to hear that.
we had a few different concepts that some are more goofy than others, and I like where we landed too.
Oh, that's so cool. So, again, thinking about this, I mean, all the way from, January of last year, and now it's coming up on 2 years now. How do you feel about the progress of the band since that point?
Paul.
Yeah, say for me, I feel like feel real happy with it. I feel like one of the things that our drummer Jonathan always says is like I just wanted to play heavy music and everything else is gravy on top of that. So like I kind of feel the same way. As long as we can just keep jamming each week, like that's a lot of fun and so I've got a good outlook on that. But I do feel optimistic about our future plans. We're talking about maybe doing another EP. Um, I don't know how much we want to reveal about that, but we're talking about maybe putting down some covers since we have kind of started out as a cover band initially. Just at rehearsals, we kind of thought it might be fun to record a couple covers and um, around the theme of like love songs. So we were thinking about calling it Marital Bliss, just because of our band name. Just thought that'd be kind of a funny take on that. But yeah, so that's something that we're looking forward to. And then we've got, as Steve mentioned, probably another 5 or 10 songs that are kind of either halfway done or most of the way done that we would like to kind of polish and record at some point.
Yes.
Oh, that's so cool. So, thinking about well, first of all, I want to say that covers idea is just so cool to me because I'm just imagining in my head how varied it's going to be in the different styles that could be on there. And I love such a grand taste of heavy music. So the fact that you could do like some avant-garde black or some Dillinger or, being able to do all these different concepts and then maybe do something a little more traditional, like a traditional love song thrown in there too, just to mess everything up. I love the idea of that so much.
I'm
Yeah,
excited about it.
we're
And we've
talking
got
about
like
doing some. Sorry, go
sorry,
ahead.
we've got like one song done so far, and it's just such a joy to play. Um, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, we're
so
talking about doing some like maybe pop rock kind of songs, but more like in our style, I guess. Which has been done a
Any-
million times. Lots of bands have done that, but it just would be fun to put our take on it.
well, I was gonna say
Anytime,
no one's done it like you guys have done it yet, so that's what's got me excited.
exactly.
Yeah.
Anytime one of us brings in a song, like a new song to work on, the phrase we always use to get it to sound like us is that it's blissed out.
So cool. So, go along with all of this. I mean, obviously things are going in the right direction. I love the fact that you guys are thinking this far ahead. Like, are you also thinking about other things as well too? Like, maybe like a music video at some point, maybe a local show or anything like that in the future? Or are you just focusing on writing material right now?
We'd like to play live. I mean, we're still kind of getting our feet wet in how to make that happen. Um, just in terms of like our personal lives and
Kids'
jobs.
bedtimes.
Like I said earlier, like Paul's got like a brand new kid. It's his first kid, so there's a lot of things to navigate there. But we're not like hardline like we're not gonna play it live. Like one of the joys of being in a band versus like a solo project or studio project is that you get to perform. So the idea of performing for other people is definitely exciting, not just the four of us in a room together.
Yeah, yeah. We definitely want to. I
Um,
feel like it's just going to be a matter of like logistically when we can make it work for our family situations.
yeah, and there's one venue near us called the Meat Locker in Montclair. That's just like a fantastic venue. Loads of great bands play there. This band Cowardice I've seen there like multiple times, and it'd be cool to play there eventually because it's super local. In terms of a music video, I think it would be really cool and fun. We just, it's a bridge we haven't really crossed yet.
Yeah, we've got lots of footage, I think. Just like home, what am I trying to say? Like cell phone footage, basically, that we've like set up a cell phone in the rehearsal space. So lots of footage of all of our songs that we could potentially splice together. We did a couple like guitar playthrough videos that Steve and I did. Um, so I think we had the idea that like we do a drum playthrough video and a bass playthrough video, and then put them all together and take snapshots of each, kind of throughout and make like a music video out of it. But it's just I gotta download Premiere Pro and splice some stuff together at some point.
Yeah, if that becomes a DIY thing, it'll definitely be Paul.
Oh, that's
I can
so
barely
cool.
figure out how to get Zoom to work, so I don't think I'm making any music videos.
Oh, I from how I used to do interviews like in person, I would go to shows and interview the bands that are coming to town to just having to hold up my phone to my microphone. And sometimes it would last like 2 hours. I would just have to hold my phone up to the microphone because I didn't have a stand at the time to now using Zoom. Like it's just been so many different things that have happened through there. So, it's just like through the technological aspects. I mean, some people are well versed in it. Some people are just lucky enough to know how to click the button to get into a Zoom meeting. So I completely understand from both aspects. But in speaking of Zoom, I sadly see my Zoom is about to close out in about 2 minutes now. But I just want to thank you guys so much for taking the time to be able to talk to me about the brand new EP coming out in November. I love all four tracks. I love everything that's going on with this. I love the message of it, with the thematics of coping in all these different ways and how life can throw you some serious curveballs, and the fact that you're able to get past those things, whether it's first time parentship, whether it's love, loss, reforming a band again, because of course there's a lot of trials and tribulations with doing something you even love, like being in a band. So, the fact that you guys are working so hard, you found each other, you love the music that you're making, you have this chemistry together. I love seeing it. It's very inspiring. And I just want to thank you guys again for reaching out to me. I love what I'm hearing. I can't wait to show this off. And I just thank you guys so much for your time.
You're
Oh man,
welcome.
thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having us. We're a small band. We're pretty unknown so far. So the fact that you do this with us is like we really appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, whether it's a band that just started last week or a band that started 50 years ago, I love supporting bands in the exact same way because uh people are going to discover new music some way, whether it's something from the past, new to them, or something brand new, and I treat it all equally to me because I just love promoting good people and good music. And
Awesome.
that's absolutely what I hear with Negative Bliss. The influences and styles that are coming through are so up my alley, and it's just got me chomping at the bit for the next material, which isn't even recorded yet. So that's just so cool to see.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
let us know if there's anything we can do, to help you out and support you. We would love to share the podcast or the interview on our website or anything like that.